Hi there, I'm Noel Plum, and you are watching The Atheist Edge. At least you will be in a minute.
Non-believers are to be boiled, melted, and pierced with iron hooks. If you go read the Quran, that's what it says. Now, I am not a Quranic scholar. I'm a funny person who hosts a daily atheist morning show who knows a little bit about Bibles and religious peoples and stuff. But what I do know is this. It doesn't really matter the context. If you claim that this is being taken out of context, this is one of the beauties of religion. It doesn't matter the context. Religious people will take something like this as an example and follow it. Whenever we talk about things like the stripes that are given by Jesus, well, you know, when you go back and look at the prophecy that's supposed to be following from the Old Testament, the guy who's getting the stripes has nothing to do with Jesus or his message or anything. It's not related at all. And yet, because they like it, they just kind of pull it into their thing and believe it, because, you know, most time people don't even go look when it comes to things like prophecy and understanding biblical text. So something like this, whenever you go read it, I encourage anybody who wants to, they can go read the Quran 22 verses 19 through 22. Go read that just as it is, those right there, and sit yourself down as a Muslim and go, what is this saying? Now, I think what you will find is that it doesn't really matter what the context is. Is the person before this going, well, this is what you don't need to do. Don't go boil these people. I don't think that's what you're going to find. But if you were to find that, you would find believers arguing again that that's not really what it means, because look, here's the example.
Girl has sex with another girl. She should be fined 200 pennies and receive 10 lashes with a whip. But if a grown woman has sex with a girl, shave her head immediately, cut off 2 of her fingers, and make her ride on a donkey. If a man beats up a priest, smells of wine, or has sex with a man, he will lose his caste status. If a man has sex with an animal, ejaculates another man or menstruating woman, he may be forced to subsist only on the byproducts of a cow, including its dung or urine.
Let's see what Twitter's doing today. Why, yes, I would love to help you with this project. Apparently, statues can make animal noises. The top 10 most peaceful countries are Iceland, Denmark, Austria, New Zealand, Switzerland, Finland, Canada, Japan, Australia, Czech Republic. The top 10 least religious countries are Australia, Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Luxembourg, Denmark, Canada, France, and Austria. See anything interesting? Now, what do you notice about the most violent countries like Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Somalia, Sudan, Congo, and Pakistan? I don't know about you, but I know where I'm going on vacation.
If a man rapes a married woman in an unpopulated area, the rapist will be put to death. However, if the victim is an unmarried virgin, the rapist will simply be fined 50 silver pieces and be forced to marry her. Additionally, if the rape occurs in the city, both will be executed because the victim didn't cry for help.
Nick Peters says, he goes to Deuteronomy 22:23-29 about a woman marrying her rapist. Even another atheist has taken this one to task. Again, don't expect Hall to have studied the text. That requires too much work. Outrage works so much better. Snap, snap, snap.
So I'm not sure who this other atheist is that Nick mentions. I did look it up from Nick's blog. The guy's name is Patrick Albrecht. From what I can tell, he's just some guy who wrote a blog article at one point and said that he doesn't like this being used as a criticism of the Old Testament specifically because it's an example of cultural relativism, and it actually is. I totally agree. But then again, if the morals of the Old Testament are what they are because of cultural relativism, well, that makes perfect sense if the Bible is just a record of human attempts to systematize various myths and cultural beliefs across various points in time. And yeah, I would agree with that. That makes sense to me. But if the Bible is supposed to be any kind of guide for modern society, which the fundamentalists insist that it should be, and they try to use as a tool to make all these people who don't actually believe along with them follow the same rules, then we have to look very hard at these kinds of passages, right? So if the God of the Israelites is the perfect creator of the universe, as some seem to think, able to do whatever he wants and structure society however he sees fit, then why was God satisfied with that kind of society where it would be the least worst outcome to have to marry the man who raped you? Why was that okay? Why couldn't that have been fixed back then? Why was God so lazy about fixing society way back when, and only now do we have things improved to the point where that seems really nasty? Fundamentalists absolutely should agree that this is an example of cultural relativism, but this doesn't really help their cause in general, because you can apply the same thing to even more situations in the Old Testament. And thus, it undercuts the idea that we should be applying Old Testament laws and commandments to modern times, which we absolutely shouldn't be doing.
Many Mormons wear temple garments, underwear inscribed with various esoteric symbols, including a compass representing the course leading to eternal life, a navel mark representing the need for physical and spiritual nourishment, a square representing the dutiful keeping of covenants, and a knee mark referring to every knee will bow and tongue will confess that Jesus is the Christ. Although one of the primary purposes of the temple garment is to ward off temptation, some Mormon women will wear your standard sexy lingerie over their unsexy temple garment, defeating the purpose. Some Mormons also believe that their magic underwear can protect them against physical as well as spiritual dangers, but this is not the official stance of the LDS Church.
In the book it says, if you had the power to heal a little girl with your hands, would you? On at least one occasion, Jesus refused because she wasn't a Jew. He finally gives in and heals her, but not before comparing her to a dog that eats her master's scraps. I think whenever it comes to this, we can go look at the text. I've gone and read the text. It's Matthew 15, 22 through 28. And that's the basics of the situation. A woman who's apparently not a Jew, she's a Canaanite, I believe. Let me pop this up real quick. The woman comes to him, and a Canaanite woman, she comes up to Jesus and she asks him to heal her daughter, and he refuses. She's apparently possessed by a demon, and he refuses. So from that point, it takes the begging of her and then the pleading of the other people, and finally he goes ahead and heals the daughter. Can you imagine how that went, though? Because he just begrudgingly did it. He's like, at first he didn't want to do it. He's like, I don't want to give the scraps. It would be wrong to give the bread of the children to the dog. And the woman had to argue with him and go, listen, even dog needs crumbs. So what kind of crumbs do you think he gave her, if this story were even true? Sure, he'd pulled out the demon, but while the demon was in her, it spun her neck around backwards, so now she walks around with her neck around backwards all the day instead of actually being healed completely. But yeah, it does appear as though, according to the text, Jesus was a bit of a jerk on this point.
Methuselah lived 969 years. Jared lived to 962. Seth lived to 912. Canaan lived to 910. Sarah, who is the oldest female in the Bible and Abraham's wife and half-sister, is only lived to 127 years. Old Testament characters routinely lived to 500 years or more. This is in constant contrast to scientific data, which finds that the average lifespan during that era was only 26 years. I don't want to do the math on this, but something's up here.
Jihad and Mein Kampf both mean struggle.
Every man in the city of Sodom came to Lot's house to rape the two angels that were there as guests. Lot offered his two virgin daughters to be raped instead. You know, not only is this true, Genesis 19 verses 4 through 8, not only is this true, there's also the story about the Levite who is traveling with his manservant, and then he has a wife who ran away. So he had to go get her from Bethlehem, and he's taking her back to his home. So there's two men traveling with a single woman. They stop in a town. An old man comes to the city center, just like in Genesis 19, takes them back to his house, just like in Genesis 19. Just like in Genesis 19, all the men of the city, the horny horde of homosexual Hebrews, come after and try to rape the men that are in the house. And just like in Genesis 19, the old man offers the women or the young girls to the horde of rapists outside in order to protect the two gentlemen, the Levite and his traveling companion. So then after the difference between those stories though is whenever the people refuse, the rapists in the Levite story refuse, the old man's daughter gets spared, but the Levite concubine, because she's not a virgin, right? So she's not worth as much. They go ahead and throw her out. She's raped to death, and it spares him. It's another example of the same thing in the Bible, of the hero of a story or the goodly person of a story offering up his virgin daughters or young females in order to protect males, or at least in the case of Genesis 19, they thought they were angels. So angels with the power of God are in my house. Yet instead of letting the angels go out there and deal some whoop ass, they tried to throw out the daughters first. So bad example.
Did you know? Everyone on earth prays to Allah every morning and evening, even if they don't want to.
If you consult a medium or fortune teller, God will banish you from society.
Despite the United States Constitution's declaration that no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States, it is still illegal for an atheist to hold public office in these 7 states: Arkansas, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas.
Nick Peters has no comment.
So, notice that these are all southern states. First of all, that kind of says it all. So here in Texas, I'll just speak to Texas. Here in Texas, you've got the Texas Constitution. Article 1 is framed as the Bill of Rights. Section 4 of the Bill of Rights is about religious tests. Now, I'm sure at the time that it was written, this is seen as being very generous, but here's how Section 4 reads. No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust in this state, nor shall anyone be excluded from holding office on account of his religious sentiments. That sounds so wonderful. But it continues, provided he acknowledged the existence of a supreme being. Oh, and they ruined it. All right, so is this a religious test or not? Well, if acknowledging the existence of a supreme being is any kind of religious statement, then I would say that it is, and I think it is. That being said, if there were any actual attempt to disqualify someone from office because of their atheism, it would be, for all intents and purposes, unenforceable. And if it were attempted, surely it would be struck down by the Texas Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court. Maybe surely isn't the right word. Maybe hopefully it would be struck down. Boy, I really want to say surely there. I don't know that I can anymore. But hopefully, we'll land on hopefully. At any rate, it's probably unenforceable and probably would be struck down, but it is still technically illegal for atheists to hold office here in Texas, and that sucks.